morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another webinar organized by EHPA. My name is Dan Stefanica. You may know me because you see me almost every week at these webinars now. I'll be your host for today. And it's my pleasure to be your host for today for such an interesting webinar. And I will also try to, change the slides and everything. So hopefully that works. Let's check. Yes, just a few rules for the participants. So basically, we've been in a situation that cannot be named, but that has forced us to work from home and participate in these webinars rather than traveling anymore. So most of you are already probably familiar with Zoom, but let's be honest, there are so many platforms that sometimes you get confused, and I do for sure. So there is a chat option where you can just put basically whatever you would like, but I would encourage you to put questions towards the speakers. I would put the option of asking all panelists and attendees. This is so that the other participants can see your questions as well. If you put just panelists, then the other attendees will not be able to see your questions. If you have a question for a particular speaker, just tag them, just say @Dan, for example, or Dan, or whatever you would wish. But this is just a way for the particular speaker to know that the question is addressed to them. There's also a box called Q&A. This is basically the same to ask questions. To be honest, I would advise you to just use the chat and not use the chat and Q&A, because for the organizers, it just makes it a bit difficult to keep track with two sections. So just use the chat for questions as well. Okay, so the agenda, just a little welcome from me. Like I said, my name is Dan Stefanica. I'm the head of EU projects here at EHPA, and I also manage the Heat Pump for All project, so the project that we are having this webinar under. Then we will have a keynote speech from Katja Weinhold. She'll talk about the amazing work that is being done by the German Heat Pump Association in relation to training. Then we will have 4 presentations from our speakers. So we have Adrian, Hervé, Leonie, and Albert. And afterwards, we will have around 20 to 30 minutes for questions. But again, you can ask them questions whenever you wish in the chat, just tag them. Then just some closing remarks. We hope to not go over time, but usually we would like to. We had a webinar last week that lasted almost 4 hours, and we would have liked to have it more. So we know, and I apologize if we go over time just preemptively. So what is the Heat Pump for All project? Basically, it's recognizing. A few years ago, we have already recognized the need for skilled workers in the heat pump sector. And moreover, we recognize the need for reskilling or upskilling existing workers that are installing or they have specialty in another technology. So basically, the Heat Pump for All project looks at the entire value chain of heat pump installation, design, maintenance, and just tries to make the skilling and upskilling of workers as smooth as possible. It also tries to provide models that can be replicated in other countries. So it tries to create a competency framework that can be applied in Ireland and with small modifications in Spain, for example. It does these webinars to basically grow the attention that we need bigger investment in skills if we want to deploy all the heat pumps that the policymakers are asking us to. And it conducts a lot of surveys and a lot of research into the resources that are already available at country level. And basically what we have been doing in the last years, I would say, is just doing research on, let's say, desk research on how exactly to have a training providers and how they are offering, how they're making their training offers, but more towards research, more towards training providers, let's say that are universities, for example. And then we thought that there's a lot of trainings that are coming from heat pump associations or are coming from manufacturers directly. So this is a major part that we want to include in our project deliverables, and that's why we've made the event today. I encourage you, and we will talk a little bit more towards the end, to check out this project and maybe give it a follow on social media. We quite like it. This is the second event. The first event was on the 4th of May. It was about heat pump skills and competencies and how to develop a comprehensive framework. Like I was telling you, we're working on this framework and we try to gather as much information as possible. So we look at frameworks from other organizations. We look at other projects that are in the field. We look at all the research that has been already done, but you know, the more information we gather, the more comprehensive our deliverable would be. So again, this is why we are making the events. So with that being said, and hopefully I was quite short, it is my pleasure to introduce you our keynote presenter for today. And hopefully she can change the slides, Katja Weinhold, and she is the spokesperson and head of communication at the Federal Heat Pump Association, BWP. Katja Weinhold has been working for the German Heat Pump Association as press officer for 5.5 years. For 1 year, she has also been managing director of BWP marketing and service and responsible for the area of trade and training and further education in the association. She has a degree in linguistics and is a trained consultant in the field of press and public relations for 15 years, mainly in the field of renewable energies. Now, it is my pleasure to have Katja here. Hopefully the platform cooperates with you, Katja. If not, just tell us and we will change the slides for you. Remember, there is a short delay from when you press the button until the slide changes, and the virtual floor is yours. Please.
Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks for having me here. Thanks, EHPA team, for organizing this. Some of you might have noticed that last week, the most important day, you could say, for the German heat pump community has taken place. We had this heat pump summit with 2 ministries, and this is why I changed the title of my keynote, Heat Pump Ramp Up in Germany, How to Counter Shortage of Skilled Workers. You might have heard this. Yeah, so this is, we will talk about all this in a minute. First, I just want to briefly, I don't have to introduce myself, Dan, thanks for doing this for me. Our association, most of you will know it, of course. We have, our membership is like a mixed one. The main part is the industry as far as the member fees is concerned, but we also have a lot of energy suppliers and companies from the geothermal fields, but also a lot of enterprises, craft enterprises with a highly increasing number, particularly during the last months. We have more than 400 enterprises from the craftsmen, installers, plumbers, and also electricity guilds. Although we are not a craft association, of course, but we offer additional services for those installation enterprises, particularly as far as training, vocational training and qualification programs is concerned. As I mentioned before, most of the enterprises from the craftsmanship are from the sanitary heating and climate area, but also some electrical based or refrigeration and air conditioning companies. We will of course not compete with our guild association and chambers, but we want to support as much as we can. Just a brief look at our key activities. It's probably the same activities than most of your European associations do. We do a lot of political communications, of course, deal with norms and standards, quality and assurance, a lot of public relations and events, information campaigns, market research, media campaigns, and we have quite good frequented social media platforms, and we do of course support, as I mentioned before, installers, craftsmen, etc., as far as training and tools is concerned. Before we start go into the topic of training and skills, I would like to have a brief look together with you at our sales figures and some numbers. The sales development, as you can see here, particularly in the last 3 years, has been increased tremendously. We had a growth of more than 28% from 220 to 221, 154,000 units has been installed in 121. And well, by now we have 1.3 million heat pumps in Germany. We might have a look at the first quarter of this year compared to the first quarter of 2021. As you can see, there was even a higher growth of, if you look at all the heat pumps together, it was 32%. Come on, slide. Changed, yeah. I want to have a brief look at the comparison of heat pumps in new buildings and in the renovation sector. Of course, the share of heat pumps is still higher in new buildings. But if we have a look at the last 2 years, you can see that the relation, like the number of heat pumps installed in the renovation sector has actually tipped compared to the units installed in new buildings, which is amazing. So we see that the market of the renovation of the existing buildings is taking a much higher importance in Germany. So yeah, this is just a brief look at the total market compared like all the various heat generation systems. You see that the share of heat pumps is constantly growing, but still compared to like gas boilers, for example, it's still a very small number. So what has happened in German politics during the last few weeks and months? Oh no, and here I have the number with the funding applications from the comparison of 2021, like the first 5 months, to 2022. And also here you can see that the number of applications has doubled, and a very, very large share, like 70,000 applications for heat pumps installations could be seen like in the first 5 months of 2022, which is more than double the number of the same period of time in the last year. Okay, now politics. What has happened since the new federal government came into action? Here's only a few quotes, like our federal minister Robert Habeck presented in his opening statement on January, that we want to roll out a rollout of heat pumps, electricity driven, ensuring that the heat supply is renewable to 4 to 6 million heat pumps until 2030. And the federal minister Lindner said during a special session in the Bundestag in February that this was with regard to the dramatic developments in the Ukraine, that renewable energies free us from dependencies. Renewable energies are therefore energies of freedom. So yeah. And of course, that the Russian war of aggression on Ukraine marks a turning point for the energy supply in Germany. And this is what has taken place last week. As I mentioned before, we had this heat pump summit on June 29th. and it was stated like there was an agreement with the industry, with a lot of association and politicians, that we want to rise the number of installed units in Germany to 500,000 per year until 2024. This is very ambitious, and the minister claimed that we will now stipulate in law that from January 1st, 2024, as far as possible, every newly installed heating system should be powered by 65% renewable energies. And the framework will be created for property owners to replace their heating systems that are more than 20 years old, and will optimize the gas boiler replacement program. In our press release, our CEO, Martin Sabel, stated that everybody, like the industry and every entity involved, is working hard to expand the capacity now. Our manufacturers are doing everything in their power to enable the German heat pump market to ramp up to 500,000, as I mentioned before. And yeah, this is the current situation. It's very exciting, of course, and very challenging. So 6 million heat pumps, there are, of course, a lot of remaining challenges, supply bottlenecks, permit bureaucracy, electricity prices, etc. But also our topic, the installation heat pump specialists and craftsmen capacities. And one part of the catalog of the suggested measures by our government is that in order to support the ramp up of heat pumps, the heat pump development program is to provide incentives for craftsmen and planning offices to take part in the training courses on the planning and installation of heat pumps. And implementation of bonus for trades is discussed currently, and incentives to use scarce resources in the plumbing, heating, and air conditioning trades for heating, renovation, installation of heat pumps. So new ideas are required, of course. Oops. Because if you have a look at the numbers of companies who in the sanitary and heating and air conditioning trade in Germany, you see that it is less than 50,000 enterprises with approximately 400,000 employees. And you could say that with the existing craftsmanship in this sector, sanitary heating and climate, these are primarily occupied with the installation of heat pumps and the heating exchange, although there are also companies from the climate and refrigeration corner, of course, and from the electrical trade, as I mentioned before. It is initially assumed that the competence for the installation of heat pumps, most of you know this, has already been acquired through this 3.5 years basic training as an HHC plant mechanic. Of course, this depends to a large extent on the orientation of the training company, and as a rule, this was not usually the case in the past. Renewable heating technologies still play almost no role in the vocational training of this trade. We assume, and this is figures via surveys we did, that today around 10 to 15% of the mentioned businesses also plan and install heat pump systems with varying frequency, of course. Today, the installation of heat pumps still takes more than twice as long as replacing a gas heating system with a new gas heating system. According to the General Association of Sanitation, Heating and Climate, in order to reach political goals, approximately 60,000 additional expert installers will be needed until 2030 to reach the 6 million heat pumps. Homeowners already have to wait at the moment approximately 1 year for a heat pump installation, and existing professionals are aging and leaving the profession, and there are few new recruits inside because the established dual training system we have in Germany is of little interest to applicants at the moment, young professionals, poor image, long duration, etc., etc. In addition, the training is also geared to generous micro enterprises. And well, this is what I meant when I talked about new ideas are needed. Of course, new new concepts to rapidly get ahead with the energy turnaround we need to fulfill. Yeah, so I summed up a few suggestions and ideas of how we can create the heroes of energy transition in a larger number. Well, what has been talked about at the moment is, of course, shaping a new image of heat transition specialists, which means we need new job profiles. And it has also been discussed whether it is possible to implement a shortened and focused training for the main focus on electrics, like also photovoltaic and the installation of batteries and stuff, plus heating, heat pump, hydraulics, hybridization, or dismantling of fossil fuel systems to kind of extract the modules that are important for this push-up of heat pumps, and also in combination with photovoltaic, from the existing apprenticeship and create new and abbreviated trainings. So, for example, it is discussed that central boot camps could be implemented with the support of the manufacturers and trade industry. This is all in discussion. Nothing of these ideas has been implemented yet. Alternatively, adapted training programs in modular manner to enable newcomers as well as people with various skills to become heat pump professionals in an individually shaped training program is one idea. And also the transfer of graduates to scalable craft enterprises and supporting units of manufacturers and trade, and further qualification on the job and new hybrid learning models. Incentives for manufacturers to rapidly increase production capacities, of course, but this is not really part of this topic. Also, in fully digitalized and industrialized companies of energy turnaround, energy transition, project planning could be fulfilled and controlled centrally and efficiently for the majority of properties in Germany, and on the resulting construction sites. Then personnel is to work efficiently in precisely defined fields. Tasks like, for example, the decommissioning of fossil-fired heat generations, disposing of, or well, not technically and economically possible, for example, with hybrid solutions. Also install the heat exchangers for heat pumps, integrate heat pumps into existing heating systems, embed heat pumps, inverters and battery storage in existing electrical systems, and so on and so on. But all these ideas, as I said before, they need to be discussed and evaluated, of course, in cooperations with our craft associations. This, to sum up the ideas, the training needs to the heat transition specialists need of course a new image. So this is the new job profiles we would need to make it more attractive job profiles that ensure a future-oriented and technology-driven profession. Safeguarding of the ecological future should be like part of the promotion of this new job profiles, so that the young professionals have the feeling that they are part of the energy transition. And of course, contribute to national independence of fossil energies, and work with high-tech equipment and processes, job security for the next decades. Those could be arguments to get new young professionals into those professions we need. All those programs need to be supported by the government, of course, via patronage or broad support for an image campaign. Also, adaptation of regulations on vocational training need to be included. also the regulation, like the craft regulation and the master craftsman obligation we have in Germany, and also the concessions for gas, water, and electricity installation. This needs to happen at short notice, of course, on the basis of the current emergency situation. And maybe also the partial assumption of the training cost could be part of the governmental support. Yeah, now I think I do still have a little bit of time. I just want to have a brief look at what we do at short notice, like we as a BWP, the German Heat Pump Association. Of course, we try to communicate for a long time that the installation of heat pumps is no witchcraft. A lot of a very important part of our campaigns in the direction of installers and heat pump experts or plumbing companies is that we want to dispel the myths that heat pumps do not work in all buildings. We all know that this is a very important part in the communication. We strengthening our activities in the direction of the skilled trades continuously and try to attract more members, of course. And we do a lot linking to training and further education offers, as we will see now. Oops, there's still some animation in this presentation. I'm sorry for this. So I think some of you already know about our heat pump online training, which we established a few years ago. It's actually directed to trainees, to younger professionals during their apprenticeship, because we found out that everything about heat pumps is not enough what they use at the schools and in their trainings. So this heat pump online training we established, well, we're doing this, we want to provide trainers and vocational school teachers with material on the subject of heat pumps, because there's a lot of content missing in the textbooks they use. So this training consists of 6 modules, which can be used in the at the schools, but also via e-learning. Each module takes about like 1.5 hours. We have also, here you can see like a little bit of the structure of the modules and what you can find into this training program. I would recommend you to have a look at it. I will put the link into the chat later on. It's also in the files, which you will receive probably in the end. So we have also launched a heat pump license, so to speak, which tests the knowledge gained from the 6 learning modules. We have like more than 20,000 participants of this license. It's usually it costs money, but we provide codes for our members, but also for interested trainers and teachers to just spread this this kind of online training and the heat pump license. Yeah, it's at the moment it's only running in German language, but we had discussions with EHPA. Maybe we could translate this and offer it to all the other European countries. The second important part of our activities as far as qualification is concerned is our training, which we established in cooperation with the VDI, which is the Association of German Engineers. The directive 4645, which is actually heating systems with electrically driven heat pumps in single and multifamily houses, planning, construction, and operation. With this training concept for planners and installers, according to this guideline, which we designed together with the Association of Engineers, there has been a template since 2018 to that training partners like manufacturers, chambers of trade, but also guilds and other educational institutions, they can use to design their own like 2 to 3 days training courses. As of now, there are like 20 training partners and about 1,500 trains participants, far too less still, of course, but we had this leak of the 2 years during the pandemic where there were hardly any trainings going on. And of those almost 2,000 trained participants, half of them, they have already taken the exam. There is an exam in the end, and the targets are like divided. VDI is doing the preparation of the guidelines and the examination regulations, and also the check of the training partners' documents is done by the VDI. What we do as a qualification partner is to conduct the online exams and to maintain the online register with the issues of qualification certificates. The industry, as I said, the chambers and the guilds and other education institutions, they are training partners and they do actually conduct these trainings. Yeah, this is the numbers summed up as far as our training is concerned. And currently we are working on an adaptation of this guideline because some of the contents are no longer up to date. This is happening continuously. And also the sheet 1, which is the training sheet, is being adapted because we would like to integrate this training program, this 2 to 3 days training program, into our master craftsman courses, the official ones. This could be a possible goal, and there are a lot of German chambers that are already working on it and doing it to have more like heat pump content into this master craftsman courses. Also, the examination is, we're trying to make this, it's an online exam, which takes like 1 to 1.5 hours. And some people told us that it's very difficult. And since like craftsmen masters are not very willing to do more exams in their life, we try to make this a little bit easier to adapt it, but it has to still cover, from our point of view, the contents of this 46-45 guideline, of course. And we're also working on a sheet 2 because there are institutions like technical schools, for example, and universities and other educational institutions. They would like to implement this into their regular year courses, so the content has to be structured differently then. Okay, brief conclusion. Yeah, in addition to all the adapting to all the existing systems and short-term retraining and continuing educational measures, the path must be opened for new focused occupational profiles, and young professionals and career changes must be turned into heroes of the energy turnaround via a broad campaign. There is a lot to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the slides, and I hope you will allow us to share some of them, especially the one with the superheroes. That was extremely nice. I really also enjoyed the presentation, and I have to say, Katja, that you have a lot of questions and remarks in the chat. So, but again, continue. If you have any other questions for Katja, just put them in the chat and just put a, just tag her, like at Katja or Katja, could you help me with this? But very nice presentation. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And I see in the chat, there's a lot of other organizations that would like help with their programs from you. So thank you so much. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Adrian Perez, Sales Manager at Ecoforest Geothermia. He's currently working in the heat pump section of Ecoforest, giving technical and commercial support in projects with ground and air source heat pumps. Adrian is responsible for the design, planning, and development of any project with heat pumps, both domestically and commercially. Being a specialist in solutions with cooling production and hybridization of heat pump with photovoltaic. So, Adrian, glad to see you again. Hopefully I can see you and hear you. Yes. Hopefully you can change the slides. If not, just say next and we will change them for you. Just a reminder to the other speakers that the camera and microphone do not need to be on unless we are on the panel discussion. Thank you so much. So Adrian, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Dan, for the introduction. And also thanks for inviting me to participate again on an European Heat Pump Association webinar today with this interesting topic about trainings on our industry. So I'm going to try to change the slide. I will do it now. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the title of my presentation is First in Training in the HVI System. Okay, it was too fast. Okay, first in the HVI sector at the Ecoforest Academy community. So the Ecoforest Academy is the name of our way of doing trainings at Ecoforest. The topics that we are going to speak today is a short presentation about who are we, what we have done through the Ecoforest Academy, why is the Ecoforest Academy necessary, how we are doing, what is also the local impact of our Ecoforest Academy trainings, the numbers and some conclusions. So our idea basically is to show you how we are doing the things and how can be replicated by others. Finally, training is a demand in general, but especially nowadays in the heat pump industry. And it's not just about heat pumps, it's also about the other technologies that are compatible with heat pumps. So basically, I'm going to start with who are we. So we are going to speak about a little bit about Ecoforest as a heat pump manufacturer. Ecoforest is a Spanish company. We are located in Vigo, in the north of Spain, and we are always related to renewables. Okay, we start our company manufacturing biomass pellet stoves and boilers, and in 2010 we started in this heat pump business. So we usually say that we are a young and innovative company because from the beginning we try to introduce into the heat pump market some new products and some different features in our products, always with an international approach. Okay, we are based on Spain, but we are working in all Europe. Also, we are opening now some business in Australia and also in the USA. So we try to be not just a Spanish company. We would like to say that we are international. In fact, we have colleagues from different nationalities. In our region, we have a very strong impact in creating jobs and hiring new talents, especially technical people from the Vigo University. Vigo University is an engineering university and very good quality. So a lot of us that we have been working at Ecoforest for so long, we came from Vigo University. So apart from that, one of the things that we try to do at Ecoforest is giving to our partners and to all people in this professional sector, giving help in each of the steps through trainings and through the planning and design of heat pump projects. So we try to be part of the heat pump projects from the beginning. Talking about what is today the topic, the trainings, we have set what is called the Ecoforest Academy. Okay, at Ecoforest we have been doing trainings from the beginning. In 2010, we were doing face-to-face trainings for biomass topics and also for heat pumps. But with the COVID situation started, the face-to-face training was not able to do it. So we changed a little bit our mind. So we created what it was called the Ecoforest Academy, and basically was doing online trainings, online webinars like the one today. The thing is that online webinars worked very well during the pandemic, but after that, when we came out again and we can go again to be on face-to-face, we keep it also online, but we came again to the face-to-face. Apart from that, we have been done more things. We changed the logo to look more modern, and then we released a dedicated website, the Ecoforest Academy, where we are sharing the contents. We are doing the login for new training. So it's and our idea is still releasing more and more content through this website. So why is the Ecoforest Academy necessary? When I'm telling the Ecoforest Academy, I'm meaning all these training programs like that we are introducing today. Especially as a heat pump manufacturer, we see that there are 4 pillars that we need to focus. First, of course, is manufacture of heat pumps. As you are aware, that now the supply is a bottleneck, as it was also mentioned in the previous presentation. So this is one of the first things that as a heat pump manufacturer, and also, of course, it's our business. Apart from that, we need to give support. We need to give technical consultants and try to help people designing the systems with heat pumps. And as I told you, with compactable technologies, like it could be PV, heat batteries, mechanical recovery ventilation systems, and the integration, all of this with the heat pumps. Apart from that, if we go to the field, in the installation, commissioning, and after sales, and in the operation and maintenance of the units. Okay. Now, heat pumps is a need in all countries. I just took some news from different newspapers from different countries, but it's similar in all countries all around Europe. So the thing is that nowadays we are facing a situation that there is a lack of qualified installers in each of the countries. It's especially known what is happening in the UK, but as you can see also in Czech Republic, Poland, and probably in Germany, that it was mentioned, it is needed to train more professionals in the heat pump sector. So for that reason, heat pump manufacturers like us, we are pushing these training programs all around Europe. So how are we doing this? How is our way to do the trainings? As I was mentioning, we have 2 ways to connect with the people. First, with online trainings, and also with face-to-face trainings. In the online trainings, we have regular webinars like this one, mainly in English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. We are speaking about different topics. We are doing some different presentations. Sometimes they are focusing good practice in heat pumps installations. Sometimes it's just basically speaking about our product range and doing some special information about our units in particular. And also it's something that is working really well is when we are showing case studies. So projects done through Europe with heat pumps installed, and we are inviting the people involved on that project to tell what it was done, what it was the demand from the customer, and how it was solved, all the barriers that we were finding during the development of the project. Apart from that, as I told you, we strongly believe in this heat pump business is not just heat pumps. There are some compatible products, and so we are working with synergies with other companies that they are also doing some trainings through our platform, through our Ecoforest Academy. In the face-to-face trainings, it's for different types of professionals. So it's not just for installer or distribution companies. We are working also with architects, engineers, also with universities and students. So we try to offer them different contents depending on the way of professional that they are. We have now different locations available that I'm going to show you later. And usually we are structuring 2 days training courses. The first day is about product range and installation and planning. When I mean product range, I mean that we start from the beginning if it's needed. So with previous content, what is a heat pump, type of heat pumps, what is the COP, what is passive cooling, active cooling. So we start from the beginning, and then we are introducing a little bit the people in what is our range of heat pumps and what they can do with our heat pumps. Then what is installation and planning. We try to adapt to the different regulations of each country, because in each country it could be some difference. So in this second topic, we try to to adapt a little bit to the regulations of each country, as I said. Then the second day, it's usually go to touch the unit. So it's when we are going in front of the unit, we start with configuration and commissioning over our units, of course, but this is probably the only thing that it could be different between Ecoforest or any other heat pump manufacturer, that our menus or our software is different to the others, but it will help you to understand also other units. Finally, there are the last content, that is the maintenance and after-sales service. Try to get what could be the possible problems in a heat pump installation, how to find it, and how to solve it. So these two modules are more practical than the first day. For that, we have developed what we call accredited Ecoforest training centers. Nowadays, there are 12 locations available in 10 different countries, mainly in Europe, but as you can see in the map, we have another in Australia. And basically, between Ecoforest and our current partners, we have set some different locations where people can go and training about Ecoforest and heat pumps in general. So basically, what we need to be an Ecoforest accredited training center is, of course, a training room and some of our heat pumps install a real installation, so we can do this the last two subjects. So the practical content could be done in the reality, in the real life. So some pictures here is the first one is our own factory, where we have a real installation, we have a showroom, we have a training class, and also we have different products installed to do the trainings. Then we have another one in Spain, that is in Valencia, La Pinada Lab, and in Madrid, it's a show working. There is not just an Ecoforest heat pump, there are also another heat pump manufacturers, but people can go there and train about the different technologies, because also they have PV and other technologies available. Then we have one training center in the UK. It was the opening, in fact, this Monday. In this training in the UK, we have like 6 real heat pumps installed, different kinds of installations. We have hybrid systems, not with gas, it's combining air and ground source. We have simultaneous production installation. So it's in this one probably is the biggest one in terms of installation difference, and we are pushing a lot the trainings for installers at the UK, another in Netherlands, another in Germany, as I told you, in Australia, in Portugal, Ireland, Belgium, and Italy, for example. So these are the different trainings available all around Europe. If you would like to do a training, it's just getting in contact with us and we can book you a training on each of these facilities. The result, we are training people about Ecoforest heat pumps, of course, but also about heat pumps in general. They are able, after finishing all the contents, to install, to do commissioning, maintenance, and after service of the unit, but also to do the pre-sales, to organize, doing scans, answering questions to the customer, and also to design different heat pump projects. So then they got like accreditation, like that they can be a heat pump accredited installer or a designer. Apart from that, at Ecoforest, as a manufacturer in our region, we would like to have a local impact. This local impact is mainly for students. So we try to cooperate with the schools, professional institutes, and of course with universities. For example, as I told you at the beginning, we have a lot of part of the team from the BIOS University, and it's a technical university. So every 2-3 months, there are some students coming and we show the factory, the R&D laboratory, and also we train them a little bit about heat pumps technology. So to increase the awareness of the technology also in our region. Just to sum it up, I would like to share some numbers. During 2021, we have like 48 different events between face-to-face and remote. In total, we have more than 1,000 attendants from different up to 40 different countries, and we have 15 different speakers between people like me that it was directly for Ecoforest, or some other people who is working on this business but is not from our company. So some conclusions just before finishing. Nowadays, the heat pump industry is facing a tremendous challenge to train professionals. So it's part of the manufacturer's responsibility to provide solution to this demand, offering training programs to the people who is interested to get it, and to train all these professionals in the field, not just theoretical, also practical, because finally we need people capable to be in front of a heat pump and come to install it and to solve any kind of problem that they can deal it. At Ecoforest Academy, we try to cover this demand with different training courses, with different topics, and as I told you, to different areas and professionals. I think that it's needed, as it was also mentioned in the previous presentation, creating joint programs between governments, associations, certification bodies, and manufacturers to quickly scale up the number of available installers and available of training centers to do these trainings. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I will give you again the power of the presentations, and we can go ahead with the trainings.
Thank you, Adrian. Very nice to see what Ecoforest is doing, and congratulations on expanding further, very far in Australia, probably the furthest you can go. Always a pleasure having you. You have some questions in the chat, by the way. We will have the panel discussion a bit later, but in the meantime, again, please feel free to interact with Adrian directly in the chat. Just tag him when you have a question directly for him. Thank you so much again. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our next speaker, Perez, who is responsible for marketing and strategy at Daikin Europe's Heating and Renewables SBU, and has a wide experience in business development in Europe, both within Daikin and in other industries: chemicals, consultancy, audit, agriculture, including international assignments in France and Hungary. So hopefully the slides work. Just keep in mind there might be a slight lag between when you press the button to change the slide and when the slide actually changes. If any issues, just tell us and we will change it for you. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. Welcome and thank you for having me at this webinar. As Daikin, I will give you a short view on our training way of training installers and supporting installers to install heat pumps and maintain them. Very quickly, I will give you an insight in what Daikin is in Europe, go through our training opportunities at different levels, and then also look at the opportunities that we see for Europe, or challenges, depending on how we look at it. So first of all, a short view on Daikin. We started as a company in 1924. In the meantime, we are offering our products and our services in over 160 countries worldwide, with a wider range of products going from air conditioning, refrigeration, over to industrial applications and residential heating. In terms of numbers, basically the whole group has about 89,000 employees with a turnover close to 24 billion euros in 21. Focusing more on Europe, there we are generating a turnover of about 4.3 billion euros with 12.5 thousand employees across the European and Middle East Africa region. As a heat pump player, we are happy to see that since we've started in 2006, we have been able to install now 1 million hydronic heat pumps throughout the whole of Europe. And these units, how do we get them installed? Well, basically, it starts from developing them through our European Development Center, which was first created here in Belgium, in Ostend, in 2012, where now we have decided to broaden that activity and create and build a new R&D center in Ghent, again in Belgium, to be fully operational in 2024, where we will have the basically worldwide knowledge center for developing heating and heating related technologies, with about over 350 engineers focusing on developing products with continuously both the installer but also the end user in mind. Yeah. We'll have in this area also other developments like controls, IoT, and 12 state-of-the-art test rooms, with also, very important for us, is an increased cooperations with the local Ghent University, but also with other European universities and partners in innovation. When we've developed those products, we also focus on producing these products in Europe and for Europe, where we have, amongst the total of 12 factories that we count in Europe, we have 5 factories that are related to heating, of which the largest one is here in Belgium. We have 2 in Czech Republic, 1 in Germany, and 1 in Turkey. And that one is then translating into our sales offices, which across Europe bring then our products to installer companies where we sell direct or via wholesaler partners. In most countries, we have our own affiliate companies, whereby, and that's then more in the Eastern European part, we work with distributors. Now, it is those affiliate companies and distributor companies that are providing training to the local installers. And for that, we have 2 settings or 2 systems that have been set up over the years. First of all, the training academy with a series of courses on and offline, and our online support platform called Stand By Me, which aims to speed up the way that an installer can work operationally on planning and installing and maintaining the heat pumps. Let me first focus on the training academy. There basically we work on a train the trainer principle. So we have in Ostend our central Daikin European Academy, where we invite sometimes customers, sometimes installers, but mostly our trainers from our country affiliates who are there trained on new products, on technologies, new features that we include in our heat pumps. And then they are able to train the local installers in the local countries, taking into account the local situations, and also obviously providing the training in the local language. Our main goals and objectives is to really create and have these learning programs for installers and service technicians to really be the best of the best, as we say. Make sure that our partners have skilled labor available, that the quality of service that they deliver to end users is very high. But also very important is that the career paths of our service technicians or of our installers are also being maintained, let's say, and that we help them in developing and keeping their job of value and interest throughout their life working time. And as I mentioned, the trainings in local language are for us a very important factor there. Training packages, and I think that's probably quite comparable with the offer that our colleague from Ecoforest has been explaining. It's really starting from the starter courses on heat pumps. What is a heat pump? What is a refrigerant, etc. But also the basics of direct expansion, installation and pre-commissioning, commissioning itself, maintenance, troubleshooting and repair, and then application and design. So basically the whole series from A to Z to allow an installer to independently plan, install, and manage the installation at all times. As a concrete example, in UK, we have 5 regional training centers. They're all fully equipped with the latest range of our products. They are all fully operational so that installers can really have hands-on experience. The training course package is online available and can be easily booked and reserved. And in addition to that, there's a series of web-based trainings that the installer or the potential installer can choose from. Yeah. So as you see here in this example, there is on the one hand a general product introduction training available, but then there's also other installation or service trainings at different levels, depending on the situation the installer is in, whether he's a novice or whether he's already quite experienced with either technology or with a product. This means that for us, what we're trying to do, and as I said, UK, that's one example, but what we try to do is really be very close to the market, to the installer. And with that, we have over 50 training centers across Europe where we provide these types of trainings. Obviously, through the pandemic, we have learned to develop a principle of hybrid training courses where there is part online courses reinforced with the workshops or classroom trainings and hands-on experience. We've seen also that number of trainees have doubled in that way over the past year. And last year we had over 20,000 trainees that enjoyed one or the other training. So that's in a nutshell the broad offer and presence that we have in terms of training centers where installers can go throughout Europe. But what is for us as important is the online support platform. It was already mentioned that today, on the one hand, there is in countries often a shortage of installers. Also, it is mentioned that the installation of a heat pump today costs a bit more time than a traditional combustion boiler. And we've developed there a platform to allow the installer to work in a much more fast way, allowing him to do some work more from home, and therefore potentially either have this done by an office-based person, and the other one can concentrate on installation. And this generates an increase in peace of mind for the installer. This online platform, which under the umbrella Stand By Me has 4 key elements, is available in basically all European languages. And we've seen over the past couple of years continuous doubling of the number of users. So there is the Heating Solutions Navigator, Stand By Me, and eCare mobile app, and I'll come back to those later. And then we're recently adding the Residential Solutions Navigator, which is really a web-based platform for end users to already for them being able to make a first selection of type of solution that would be proposed to them, which then with that proposal, they can go to the installer and thereby speeding up the selection and decision process also for the installer. Now going a bit more in focus on the Heating Solutions Navigator. So that's basically a digital toolbox that allows the installer to really identify what is the best solution for a particular house. On the one hand, he puts in the details of the house, energy consumptions, heatings, details, etc., structure of the house, and then he can configure not only the installation, but also create custom-made piping and wiring diagrams, which allow him to proceed faster in the actual configuration and of the unit. Then there is the Stand By Me option, which allows him on the one hand to register the unit and as such keep track of all his installations that he has done. He's being reminded on when a unit might need maintenance. And also through that, he can offer, the installer can offer additional warranty to end users. It also facilitates the ordering of spare parts. Finally, there is the eCare app, which is then going one step further, that after the Stand By Me registration, the easy configuration is there, but also the easy troubleshooting is there via what we call the e-doctor part. So that's basically the tools that we put available, not only to help installers on the one hand getting trained and being excellent in installing and maintaining heat pumps, but also making sure that this goes with the online platform in a faster, quicker way, so that in that way he can optimize the number of installations that he can do. And there, to conclude, we would say that as we see, heat pump installers are really a growing community in Europe. It's clear that they are a key player to help us in decarbonizing the heating sector. The heat pump market clearly is creating new jobs. It will motivate, I would hope, the existing, let's say, combustion heating installers to switch, but also with the tools that we and the colleagues from the industry are providing, making it more interesting and easy for other professionals, like for instance, electricians, etc., to step into the industry and in the profession. As a key industry player, we focus on making the life of the installer easier, developing new heat pumps that make installation and maintenance fuss-free, which includes remote diagnosis and increasingly remote repair possibilities. Again, they're also saving time for the installer, continuously reinforcing the existing programs, also doing it by ourselves, but also increasing the cooperation with existing market actors like wholesalers, like utility companies, to in that way optimize also the use of their facilities to train their customer installers. And then obviously continue to increase online support facilities. Towards policymakers, there we are looking to make sure that there is a good integration of labor and skills policies with the decarbonization strategies. And I'm happy to see that the elements that we put there on the slide are also in line with what the BWP is also looking for and putting in practice, is providing financial support for those installers that want to move into heat pumps, and also include basic heat pump technology courses, refrigerant and installation skills in the school programs where today, let's say, call it conventional plumbers are being trained, that this new technology is also automatically trained there, so that we already advance the know-how and the knowledge of heat pumps when young installers come from university or from their education. With this, I would like to conclude our presentation on the way that we look at training and supporting heat pump installers in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And there are some questions in the chat already. And I will check them. Yeah. That the participants have actually tagged you, so it would be okay to see which ones are especially for you. Very nice presentation. Thank you so much. I particularly like the eCare app. just the user interface and its utility seem very, very interesting. So we might talk about that a bit later. Moving on to our next speaker, Leonie Assauer is responsible for EU affairs at Weissmann. Her focus areas include the decarbonization of heating and cooling by 2050, the energy transition, connectivity and smart buildings, and possibly for our webinar today, training activity that Weissmann is currently engaging in. So hopefully you have control of the slides. If not, just tell us and we will change them for you. And camera is working, microphone is working. Hopefully it didn't stop working since we tested it a few minutes ago. The floor is yours.
I think we're good. Hi, Dan. Thanks so much. Yes, I'm going to talk as well about how we're looking at training installers, and especially focusing on what we're currently doing to accelerate and scale up our training capacities. So very quickly, Weissmann is a German family company founded 105 years ago. Today, we have about 13,000 employees worldwide, focusing on the whole portfolio of heating and climate solutions. So we're coming originally from gas and oil heating, but now offer, of course, also heat pumps, but also PV and biomass. Very quickly, some numbers to put that into perspective. We have about 20 production sites globally, and last year had a turnover of about 3.5 billion euros. So as we all know, and other speakers have mentioned that beforehand, the war in Ukraine and the pricing and geopolitical developments have further accelerated the transition towards non-fossil, and in turn also forced us to look at our training and capacities, skilling capacities, and how we can accelerate and scale those to meet this accelerating demand. In our view, generally, there's 5 clusters to do this. So we need to, of course, speed up, ramp up an installation. We need to raise the scale. For us manufacturers, that's also especially the scale of production facilities and capabilities that we have. We also need to further improve in terms of the customer side, so improving affordability, to increase the share of heat pumps, looking at sustainability. But of course, as you can see, a main element of that is skills. And why is that so important? Oh, maybe let me say that we are investing about 1 billion in exactly that, so in heat pump production capabilities, but also a vast amount of that investment goes also into our training capacities. In our capacities to upskill our installers and partners, to also upskill or raise awareness of end users in terms of the possibilities, also looking at this existing building stock, and also, of course, reskilling our own employees to transition from fossil heating systems to people that are currently producing gas boilers, for example, to heat pumps and other renewable solutions. Why is it so important? These numbers are based from an EHI study done last year, which found that 72% of consumers receive advice from their installers on what heating system to pick and what solution to go for, and 95%, so almost everyone, follows this advice from their installers to at least some extent. So there's, of course, a very, very trust-based relationship that's important and key to ensure that the rollout and the figures that we have for heat pump rollout can actually be met. At the same time, we see that 50%, and this is a number taken from an internal survey that we did at the beginning of the year, 50% of our partners don't feel comfortable installing heat pumps or have insufficient knowledge and certification. And that number is similar for Europe as well. So of course, we see when we put those two numbers in together, it is absolutely essential that we focus on installing and training capabilities. To meet those numbers in the time frame that we have, so just a reminder for Germany, the idea is that all new heating installations are run on 65% renewables, starting 2024, and starting 2024, as Katja has already mentioned, installing 500,000 heat pumps per year. right? So to meet those numbers, it's essential that we are doing this in a pragmatic way, and also looking and further, improving the emphasis on the importance and opportunities of trade in the sector. How we're doing this? Our center is the Viessmann Academy. It's not new, of course, and similar to what Hervé and Adrian have mentioned. Of course, it's our own in-house learning center for training and reskilling classes. What I want to focus on today is what we're doing at the moment to meet the goals, right? Just to give you a few numbers. In 2021, our trainers had people in classes equivalent to 50,000 man days, right, in hours, in working hours. To meet the German heat pump goals alone, right, we have to raise the share of classes by more than 5. So we have to increase our own training capabilities. And so, right, let me be careful. This is just to meet only the training goals for our own partners, right? This is not any indication for the German market as a whole, but this is just at looking at our market share. We have to increase those by 5 and be able to train, to give training worth of equivalent to about 80,000 man days, and as quickly as possible, right? So this is not a number that we are aiming to meet in 5 years or 2 years, but literally as quickly as humanly possible. So specifically, our academy staff looks at 3 sectors or clusters on how to accelerate and scale our capabilities. So leveling up in terms of scale, how we can be as pragmatic and as efficient as possible, and also, of course, how we can include our installers and partners as best as possible. So in order to increase our capabilities, we are doing, or we have done, mainly 3 main things. So the obvious one maybe is hiring more people, more full-time teachers for the academy, which we are doing. But what we're also doing is upscaling other teams in the company. For example, sales teams that already have a very good knowledge of the heat pump portfolio, to qualify them. By qualifying them, we have been able in the last couple of months to already increase our training capacity by ×10, and now have trainers that can, for example, do specific classes, heat pump beginner classes, so to speak, to increase the share also horizontally across our facilities. We've also refocused and accelerated the focus shift that we've already done. So our training now is fully geared towards renewables, of course. And then, as several others have mentioned, we're trying to use as many channels as possible to increase our reach. So similar to what others have shown you, so I'm not going to go into detail with this. So we also have a learning center, of course, that can be used by our employees and partners, which offers live webinars, but also learning videos, so users can customize their own learning journey and focus on the areas that are important for them and their business. Maybe the most important one at the moment in this very turbulent times is the goal or the objective to be as pragmatic as possible. So we are increasingly offering classes locally to reduce travel times for installers who are, as we all know, very busy at the moment. So we're now offering classes and not only at our established training centers now in our headquarters, but also, for example, in Germany, with the aim of being able to offer classes in all of our 30 regional sales offices. We are using digital services and tools as much as possible to help reduce workload for installers, being it by providing information, easing maintenance, reducing admin workload, or helping with information on subsidies. And the last one, which is not something that we're doing we're personally doing right now, but it's something we think is very, very important, which is why I want to underline this here, is our belief that there is a need for pragmatic and very, short-term models and programs, funding programs to help especially smaller companies to compensate for earning losses during training hours. So to make it much more easier for all companies to make use of those offers. Just wanting to give one example for what kind of services or tools I'm talking about. One program which has been very successful for both end users and our installers and partners has been a software so-called Förderprofi. So it's an automatic program designed to help users kind of solve the puzzle of how and how much to receive in terms of public subsidies for changing to a heat pump. So it's a very easy setup. You give in your the key data, and the program calculates the amount of subsidies for you, and then also takes on all the admin and bureaucracy. So the team takes then over, handles all the application process. So it's reduces a lot of headache for the end user, and of course it helps installers in terms of client discussions, saves time, and helps to speed up the process in terms of decision making when switching to renewable heating and heat pumps. And then how are we looking at including installers even more so in our programs at the moment? As I've said at the very beginning, in our internal survey, we again looked at and saw that our 50% of our partners were embarrassed or worried because they'd never worked with heat pumps before. And we're also a bit embarrassed in joining heat pump qualification classes, because those are people with lots of decades of experience in the field, and who are maybe not comfortable of joining with younger people, or admitting that there may be a lack of knowledge sometimes. So we started specific beginner classes and beginner trainings to address those fears, and specifically work with installers and companies who have up until now never worked with heat pumps before, to kind of ease the transition and help them to understand, to see that it's not that complicated, and then to start the certification or qualification journey afterwards. We're also looking in terms of being as efficient as possible to personalize training, right? So not every employee in a 5 or 8 person company needs to have all the same qualifications, right? Sometimes it might be more useful to have 1 or 2 people specializing in planning, another one in installing, etc. So that also helps if in increasing, a company's ability to handle the workload and the increasing workload, and take off a little bit of fear, when in the idea that everyone needs to have, the so-called Kälteschein in Germany, so the refrigeration certificate, so to kind of balance the workload a little bit more. And then specifically, and other speakers have mentioned that as well today, it's key, or one key aspect is of course attracting young talent and young people to fill the open jobs in the sector. So what FISMAN is doing at the moment is a national initiative that informs about the job offers, especially with renewable heating. It's a very wide social media communications campaign, and then it's connected, of course, to directly to the companies themselves. So it offers kind of a job search for open positions. So using our brand recognition in helping installer companies as much as possible in spreading the knowledge about the jobs. Katja mentioned a similar program that BWP is doing at the moment, to trying to engage and fill the gaps that we're having. So coming to a close, yes, maybe my three main conclusions on how we will manage to accelerate the training and increase the capacities needed. I think is that what I've mentioned before, reskilling and training must be included in current support programs and must be eligible for funding, right? So it shouldn't look only at production capacities and at the supply chain, but we must take skills seriously and into account. Therefore, we must enable the combination of different funding streams to enable associations, but also companies to design the programs that are specifically targeted to the needs of the installers. And we must enable especially smaller companies to increase their training efforts. So as I said, finding a way for pragmatic and effective compensation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Leonie. There are some questions in the chat for you as well. I particularly like the be pragmatic slide and the ideas there. So we might revisit that in the panel discussion. Thank you again. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to our last presenter and our last participant in the panel discussion, Albert Blasco, Marketing Manager at Panasonic Heating and Cooling Solutions Europe, with a very extended experience just working at Panasonic for the last 14 years, having a lot of aspects and a lot of activities in the training programs that are offered by his company. Please, the virtual floor is yours. Hopefully the slides are working and the camera and microphone have not stopped working either. Please.
Hello, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Dan, I changed my setup. I don't know if it's working, my camera and my microphone. Yeah, it's working? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm the last today, so I have the advantage of have seen all the colleagues' presentations. I want to congratulate them for the different views and different information that they share to us, and also to Katja to show the big progress that they are having in Germany in regards to the heat pump incentivization. So in Panasonic, so I call this presentation Training for the Heating Revolution. So we have a big target in 2030 in front of us. And what it's a fact is that the heating market has changed a lot. Okay, so it was changing, but in the last month we are suffering a situation that makes that everything is changing much quicker than everybody was expecting. So just about Panasonic, I will not go very deep, but we are a 104 years old company. We are making and having experience of 64 years in air-to-air heat pumps, and also several years in air-to-water heat pumps. And in Europe, we have a dedicated company for heating and cooling solutions and one factory in the Czech Republic. So once made the quick introduction of the Panasonic company, I would like to explain you a little bit of the background. So the situation of heat pump, it's different country by country, and the knowledge of heat pump, it's completely different. So probably in all the people connected today, we are very familiar, but what it's true is that when you go to the people not connected to this business, the knowledge might differ a lot country by country. Okay, so just before going to the topic, I would like to show this background. So we have different places where we can influence or we can explain what is our advice, how to move forward to these 2030 targets. And the first one is probably the most important. So policymakers are the key for everything. And later in some slides, you will see a map of Europe with some colors that you can see clearly what I mean. Also, property owners, we need to get in touch with them. We need to explain what are the advantage of the heat pump, but anyhow, it will be very much driven by the policymakers. Design offices, we are talking really much about professional installers, the craftsmen, but the reality is that design offices in big projects are very key, and we need to get in touch with them. And also, as also some other colleagues said today, users, they need to know about heat pump. and push to the channel to get a heat pump instead of other fossil fuel technologies. So how we differentiate the type of installers, the air-to-water heat pump professional. So we can have different type of backgrounds. First background is what we can say the air-to-air HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, that can be combining the installation of air-to-air and air-to-water heat pumps in their daily life. And the second group, I know it's probably not the best name, but I call it, make it easier, ex-boiler. So some professionals that in the last years, they are moving from boiler to heat pump, okay? Then, well, today we have, in the REPowerEU, we have a big demand for getting more installations of heat pumps, and as consequence, we have more demand of installers. How we can make these installers, how we can make more installers, because I think the big question is, are more enough installers in Europe today to reach these targets? I think the reply is yes and no. So yes, because we have today installers already working. We have potentially a lot of installers that can be educated or maybe retrained to other technologies. But with the speed that we need to reach now all the targets, of course, that's not enough. So I think we need to focus in analyzing what in the first one, conversion of boiler professional. So just taking some information from EPA Association in the last year report. Still, we don't have the 2021. It will come in the next weeks, I hope. But here we can see like heat pump heating has been growing steadily, well, quite a lot, but doubling from 2014 to 2020, reaching 1.4 million in Europe. When we check the same calendar with boilers, we see that this is very stable. We're going to 6.1 million per year. But probably when we see 2021, we'll see like this is growing quite a lot. And probably this one we can start to see like it's decreasing. And with the projections that we're having and the targets that Europe is setting, this has to change dramatically. So here we have a massive number of professionals that they need to make a choice. They keep in the comfort zone, or they switch and learn how to work with heat pumps for keeping their business. Okay, so here we have a big number of installers that we can convert, and of course that's not easy, and it's a matter of time and a matter of implication of many companies, associations, but also the governments. And the second point is the new heat pump professionals that are the native ones. So the new craftsmen that we young people, like other colleagues said, we need to bring them directly to heat pump native. Okay, so and we can see later in some slides that it's having some added value compared to the traditional heating systems. Okay, then what is key to make this switch? We saw that we have a lot of boiler installers that they will keep installing boiler until this is banned or they don't have any other choice. So here I just pick up one recent news of Austria to ban gas boilers in new building of 2023. This is just one example. If we watch at the bottom in the map of Europe, I'm sorry for UK is not here because it's coming from European official data, okay? But we can see in color the countries that already took some action in banning some fossil fuel energy heating. Some of them are more aggressive, some of them are not that aggressive, but these actions are giving a very clear signal to these boiler installers. You need to change. That's the clear message. And if we compare this color with the penetration of heat pump in Europe, we'll see that this is very much related. So the countries taking actions are the ones that are moving faster in the implementation of heat pump, and of course, consequently with the decarbonization of heating. So this is about the fossil fuel bans. About user owner demand, we know that's key. We need to create the demand also from the end user. They need to know what is a heat pump and the advantage of a heat pump. Professional associations, that's very key. So we have plenty of professional associations in all the countries that they can help and support locally to the people that want to make the switch and advise them how to make it in the best way. And professional schools, all these new technicians, all these new young people that want to be a craftsman to work in this market, they need to teach about heat pumps. They cannot keep in their program talking about fossil fuel heating when we know that this is going to be for a short time that they can use it. And the last one, and it's probably involving also the governments and the policymakers. We need incentive for this skills transition. We need to take out from the comfort zone many people that they are very busy making a lot of installations in all the countries, and we need to take them in some days to learn what is a heat pump and how to install heat pump. So for that, we need to find some incentive to them to balance the money that they will not get it when they stop the installation. Then I saw in the chat someone make this question. Do we have the same needs of training depending on the profile of professional? No, the reply is no, clearly no. So we have the people that it's coming from air to air, heat pump. Of course, they need training. They need to learn very well about heating, and also they need to learn about hydraulics. So by chance, this is what they don't need when someone is coming from boiler. Someone that knows boiler, they knows about hydraulic, plumbing, and heating. So we need to teach them about different things, probably more important, like sizing, settings. And at the end, this is a very big, let's say, a big change in their life. So they need to do something that they have been doing in the last 10, 15 years in a very completely different way. And then we need to support them to make that path in a very soft manner. Okay, so the way of designing a boiler, we know it's selecting the capacity. It's very easy, and when we select the capacity in a heat pump, we need to select it very well. And what are the contents? So some other colleagues explain that the contents might be different. We need to adapt to each type of people. So if it's beginner, not beginner, but as concept, what we need to explain, first of all, what are the heat pump benefits? So we don't want to just sell heat pumps. We need to explain what is the benefit of heat pump and explain all type of solutions. In our case, we have many different type of systems that can adapt very well to different type of buildings, different climates, and different places. So we need to explain very well how is the range that they can select, and also to select the right size, the right capacity. And for that, we are having a very nice design tools like some other colleague explained. So in our case, we have a Panasonic Aquaria designer that is available in our webpage that they can select the unit that it's matching better in each city, each building, and each heating needs. And the fourth point, the settings, it's probably one of the keys. So we don't just install, we need to make the right settings to make the best of performance of that heat pump in that place. Okay, so that's a big difference compared with traditional heating. These settings are super key. Then in our case, we have some advantage that we are electronic company, so we are a part of making compressors. We are very specialists in electronics. So we can have a lot of possibilities in relation to the home energy management and connectivity. And this is one of the chapters that are becoming more popular in our case, because here they can find some options how to connect to PVs, and sometimes they ask some type of connections that maybe it's not possible, or they are not known that that's possible. And the last point is about maintenance. We have a Aquaria service cloud that when we connect the heat pump to the cloud, we are getting a lot of information that installer can use for making the maintenance and the servicing in a different way that they are used to do in a traditional heating system. Then we need to maximize the capillarity. So for that, we are having training centers around 19 different countries in Europe. We have 37 training centers. It looks a lot, but in reality, it's nothing. So we need to do much more than that. We are having also some movable training centers, some tracks that we're putting to the places like distribution training centers. Also, we support them to have the right conditions, the right units, the right trainer to these places to teach the heat pumps. And also, we are combining a part of the face-to-face trainings, the digital trainings 24/7, and the webinars. So this is something that in the last 2 years we have been using a lot, but now we'll keep using for accelerating the process of training for the heat pumps. And also it's becoming to start also quite popular, the hybrid trainings, where we have some people face-to-face and some people virtually that can join, and not the same level as face-to-face, but at least they can have some knowledge. And the last point is the professional associations and schools that we can talk with them, we can teach them, and can support to make the right program to explain about heat pumps. Okay, then that's all from my part. So I would like just to summarize that we need to make a change from mechanical to digital skills. Also, that we need to increase the craftsman demand. So we need to incentivize that this profession is very good for the future. We need to talk with installer schools. And also we need to make a lot of training centers own and not own training centers to make this training transition very quickly. Okay, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I have to say that I thank all the speakers for being on time with their presentations and for answering the questions in the chat. I must say, I really enjoyed the webinars where there's a lot of interaction, like today in the chat. I've also made some notes in my document here with some questions that I would like to ask the panelists. So I would invite them to, as well as Katya, of course, to turn on their camera, please. And if my colleague could, oh, I do control it. Thank you so much. I was just asking to change the slides. Hopefully it's working. Let me see. Yes, there you go. Here you go. So just a few moments. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for answering the questions in the chat. If the participants have questions afterwards, just email us at the HPA and we'll make sure that the speakers get them afterwards. And also just a reminder, everyone will receive the presentations, as well as we will upload the recording to our YouTube channel, so you can always access it from there. So for Katya, I would have, apart from the extension of trainings and implementation of heat pump expertise, what needs to be done to increase the number of installers and manufacturing personnel?
Thanks, Dan, for this question. I think I covered some of the answer in my presentation already. I think particularly in Germany, we have to face the situation that the job profiles of the sanitary heating and climate professions are not very attractive for young people, for novices, for junior employees. So what I think we should do is just to create new job profiles, which is kind of difficult because the guilds and the association, the craftsmen associations are involved, and they continue to tell us that it's not very easy, since heat pumps is covering not only like one branch. It's not only the sanitary and heating branch, but also the air conditioning and climate and the electricity branch. So yeah, my dream would be like to have a job profile where the trainees would cover one part of their apprenticeship in an electrician company, another one in a sanitation and heating company, and then the third year or the third part of the apprenticeship, then they could choose themselves. Yeah, this would be like one aspect, but there's many others, of course.
Okay, thank you so much. For Albert, and I think this is on the minds of many of the participants, what would you say is the most demanded training that you're offering? And also maybe why do you think it is more demanded than others?
Thanks for the question. So the most demanding training for me is the one related to connectivity, because it is something that most of the installers that want to learn about heat pump already know about heat pump, but they feel that they can have added value in the channel, so they can differentiate. So now, before heat pump installers were very limited, everybody was enjoying the business. Now they have to compete. So this type of added value that we can bring to the market is something that is bringing interest, and probably that's why it's the most demanded, about connectivity and control.
And how can we benefit from the digitalization of the heating sector for training and maintenance related to what you were saying?
So for digitalization of training, well, we see that we have many tools today. We can accelerate this process with many webinars. We can have online trainings 24/7, and also we can engage people wherever they are and where they are available. So that's a big change today. And the second question was about servicing, you said? Or?
Just the digitalization that you answered. So
yeah,
more
okay.
webinars, easier to make, more user interfaces for them.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much. For Hervé, I have here some notes. How does Daikin aim to continuously make the life of installers easier, or make it easier for non-installers to become a heat pump installer? Now, I know you presented a lot of the ideas there, but just in a nutshell.
Well, I think there's two big elements is when we are developing heat pumps is to make sure that next, of course, next to the performance requirements of the heat pump, etc., that we really look through focus groups with installers to see how we can make their life easier in terms of installing or maintaining. Sometimes it's quite fast to install a unit, but then maybe the maintenance aspect is not straightforward, or vice versa. So that's at the design of the unit. That's where the first element lies. And I think there, referring to what Katja said, is if we can try and to a certain extent speed up the way that heat pumps can be installed, that already would take one blocking factor there, or one barrier away. The second one is indeed on with the IT tools that we're developing and making available for the installer, is a bit linked to what my colleague just said, is making sure that the units are connected, that is IT or online connected, whereby then also they can either remote diagnose some issues that might exist, and thereby also speed up the level of intervention. So you might only need to travel one time instead of having to travel 2 times to a location. And that's when we're talking about maintenance. So again, saving time there. Yeah. So that's a couple of very practical examples. And then thirdly is the whole, let's say, management aspect, whereby the installer can easily keep track of all its installations when he needs to do the maintenance, etc.
And how much would you say the installer base would need to grow in the following years? Do you have an estimate for that, or?
Well, I don't have a total estimate. I think we've seen quite some numbers related to Germany. The installer base will need to grow but first also to transfer from traditional heating systems to heat pump systems. That is one element. In terms of growth, the numbers are very different country by country. And there we also need to look at the speed of change, yeah? Where, for instance, with the decision that has been taken in Germany, this is now requesting a very fast change. On the other hand, other markets are having seemingly more, call it moderate development plans of growth year by year. On the other hand, what we have seen in the past, where markets have grown quite fast in France, for instance, or in Italy, thanks to some incentives that took place, is that there we see that, with exception of here and there hiccups, that the market has been able to a certain extent, to adjust to a growing demand. I'm not saying that there's no additional installers needed, but we do see that there are some cases where the market was able, and the installer community was able to react to a fast changing situation.
Indeed. Maintaining the idea of what is happening in Germany, for Leone, I know that last week, German stakeholders discussed the heat pumps at a heat pump summit organized by the Ministry of the Economy and Climate in Berlin. And they got together and discussed all the major ramification of what is happening these days, and the major ramifications of having to step up deployment and, manufacturing of heat pumps. Was the issue of training and skills also on the agenda?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Maybe before I get into that question, just simply to complement what Hervé mentioned just now, there's a recent EHI paper that estimates, right, that looks at the number of installers in Europe, right, saying that we have about 1.5 million at the moment, and looking at the REPowerEU goals, kind of extrapolating the increased number of heat pump installations, and it comes to an estimate, that we could look at an increase of about 50% of people in the coming years. Of course, take this always with a grain of salt, because as Hervé mentioned, right, there's so much going on in different markets, different developments, that it's very hard to give out a specific number at the moment. Just that as a side note. And then looking at the heat pump summit in Berlin, and Katja already mentioned this in her speech, right? It was the start of a discussion, and yes, training and installers were also on the agenda. Skilled trade associations, and the groups responsible for those certifications and trainings were around the table, which I think was very important. To come to joint conclusions with all the stakeholders involved. So I don't, as far as I know, there have not yet been specific agreements in terms of numbers of installers, for example, but a firm commitment to improve training, and also modernize. Or make training more efficiently, some things that Katja mentioned, as best as possible. I think that's being looked into at the moment. To look at what kind of programs can be developed quickly to accustom the different market that we're looking at now. And I know that the partners have agreed to now meet regularly to discuss the changes and monitor the changes, also in regards to training and skills. So that might also be a model for other markets, or even European programs to look at.
And then another question I have, and maybe it's really connected. So we talk about the trainings that you're having for installers, the need for training them, but does this require training of your in-house staff as well? Because there's, first of all, the need to train more installers, and then probably to train them differently, maybe faster, maybe using digital tools. So are you also considering this aspect of in-house training your own employees?
And as you said, Dan, right, there's two sides. So one is, and I think I've mentioned a few of those things in the presentation. One is how to train more people to become trainers, right? Training the trainers. So the first thing we did was making sure that all of our trainers are, at the latest level, are updated on all of the renewable and heat pump classes. So even those that previously focused, on gas maintenance, for example, are now, fully proficient heat pump trainers. Recruiting, so to say, more people from within the company to be able to give classes and trainers. And then there's, of course, for us, coming from gas and oil heating, there's also the need to train the in-house manufacturing staff. So people that are now working mainly, working on constructing gas boilers, to train them to move towards heat pump manufacturing, for example. That has been going on, and of course we're now accelerating those, but that's usually not done in class per se, right? Of course people can take the online classes if they want to, but the main part of that training is being done on the job. So when we're changing construction lines, the teams that already work with heat pumps, take on kind of mentees, so to speak, from the fossil lines, and retrain them for the new tasks.
Thank you. That is really, really interesting, actually. And lifelong learning as well. We're big fans of lifelong learning here. And lastly, for Adrian, the same question I put before would be, how does Ecoforest aim to continuously make the life of installers easier, or make it easier for non-installers to become a heat pump installer? Now, I know you put a lot of information there, but just in a nutshell, if you would have to select some of your services that you're doing, what would be the ones that make the life of the installer the easiest, let's say?
Okay, I think that basically for me, the most important thing is the face-to-face trainings where the installers can be in front of the unit, so they can check on real life what is happening, they can check a real installation, they can commissioning and configure there. But also we are working in one tool that is also an online platform with some videos, some digital content, some more interactive. So the lack of time is also a problem. So the idea is that in the free time, or when people is at home, they don't need to be at this time hitting us. They can just check later. So it's another way that we are working on to get more people involved and to get closer to all of them, not just installers, or also other kind of professionals, or even, as I mentioned during my presentation, students or normal population that they would like to get aware about heat pump technology.
Very nice. And I particularly like the students part. I mean, let's just say, because most of us, or some of us, were recently students. So I think a lot of universities would appreciate this collaboration. And I know that universities are always looking to collaborate with manufacturers or places that the students can just go and have their first job experience or training. So I think that is highly, highly appreciated, the first step in your career. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the panelists. We are running a bit out of time. I'll just present you a little bit of things about our project, and then I will go, and then I will let you go your merry way, of course. Again, everything is recorded. In just a few days, you'll receive an email with all the information as usual. We just need to edit a little bit the recording, so everything would be nicer. Put some music and things. So just a little bit about the project, because I also saw some questions there. So basically, I encourage you to check out our Heat Pump for All project. It's regretfully, we're already midway in its life cycle. So hopefully we can continue with other projects in this field. You can see there all the work that we've been doing to just basically collect all the data, basically for our competency framework. And that's where this event comes into play. I just wanted to see what the heat pump manufacturers are doing, and also complement them with what National Association is doing in the field of training, so we can put and make our deliverable as comprehensive as possible. So basically, what you see on the screen are other projects that we've taken a look into, and maybe you're interested in this, that there are a lot of projects that are funded by the European Union that are looking into training, that are having workshops like we're having now, and that generate a lot of research and documents. We also, of course, when we design this competency framework, we look at competency frameworks from other fields just to make it as complete as possible. And we always have, we will have surveys, we have interviews, we have this event that we've just been doing now. So keep an eye on this because I see in the chat that there are a lot of participants that know quite a lot about what's happening, about the funding, about what's happening in their countries, about what needs to happen in their countries, what's missing in the trainings, what's missing in the way the trainings are done. So please keep an eye on, our EHPA social media, as well as the project itself, so that if we need inputs, and probably in the next months we will, you have your opinion there, and it's taking into account, and we include it in what is communicated to the Commission. Lastly, of course, we have many events at the EHPA. There's one in a few hours actually about REPowerEU. So if you're curious about REPowerEU, that might be for you. How to find out about this? Just follow our social media, become a subscriber of our newsletter, if not. But I think that the social media would have everything that you need in a very short, let's say, format. So either our LinkedIn, be a member of our LinkedIn group where you can collaborate with others from the field and you can post your own articles, or just follow us on Twitter, check our website, especially now that we're working on it to make it nicer. So that's all from me. Thank you again. A pleasure to see all of you. The panelists, thank you again. My team, especially Irene, that made this workshop flawless from a technical standpoint. And from everyone at the HPA, we wish you a pleasant lunch and a pleasant rest of the week. Keep up the good fight for heat pumps. Thank you so much. Bye, bye, bye.